Social Impact CX, the podcast that helps you drive mission and make a difference with customer experience.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for the Social Impact CX podcast. I'm John Corrigan, and I'll be your guide to how you can drive mission and achieve social impact with customer experience work. This is episode 7 of Social Impact CX, and thanks again for listening. Today, as I record this podcast, I'm working with a fantastic new writing assistant to move forward with wrapping up my forthcoming book called Mission is the Journey, Driving Social Impact with Customer Experience. And here in episode 7, I'll be focusing on the importance of customer research to good CX work. And in this podcast, I'm going to share a preview of some of the materials that will be in my book. Research in the field of CX is an important and significant subject, so I'll only get to parts of the idea of research and CX work in order to keep to our time limit here, our target time limit. But that just means that there's more to talk about on the subject in future podcasts. And I think it's a good time to start previewing content from my Mission is the Journey book, as it looks like we're heading for a publication date of sometime in summer 2018. Also, I've just started a new vlogging series. It's a series of tips for Social Impact CX. The video spots are typically about a minute each and appear first on LinkedIn and Twitter, and then they'll also post onto our YouTube channel as well. The first series of Social Impact CX tips is about the book Outside In from authors Harley Manning and Carrie Bodine. Outside In is one of my favorite customer experience books. I'll likely talk more about Outside In a future podcast, but if you have a copy of the book, I'll be sharing my own highlights in the Social Impact CX tips online. And the reason why I'm mentioning this here fits right in is because in order for you to really understand the perspective of whomever you're working to serve, you're going to need to commit to doing some research. So not only is it a good time to preview the chapter in Mission is the Journey that's all about committing to customer research, but this podcast is also timely since you need to commit to customer research if you're interested in achieving an outside-in perspective to better help whomever it is that's most important to you, whether that's beneficiaries or clients, patients, customers, members, whomever that is. So if you'd like to keep up with the Social Impact CX tips, starting with my insights on the book Outside In, and then in the future as they continue to appear online, send me a connection request on LinkedIn. You can find me, John Corrigan. If you type in search my name and then Journey Map, my startup, JOURNIMAP, Social Impact CX, I think those will probably bring me right up. And send me an invitation to connect on LinkedIn. That would be great. You can also follow both Social Impact CX and myself on Twitter. Our Twitter handles are @SocialImpactCX or @JFCorrigan, and that's JFCorrigan. Or you can also subscribe to the Social Impact CX YouTube channel as well, and you'll see all the tips vlogs go live there. Before I go too much further in this podcast, however, I'd like to point out how grateful I am for everyone like you who's already tuned into this podcast and that is already following me and Social Impact CX on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm relatively new to podcasting and vlogging, and my first couple months have been quite an experience. Before December 2017, no one had ever seen me post a video online, and it's April 2018 as I record this podcast. No one had ever seen me post a video online. And then if you go back to January of 2018, I was running around 5,000 impressions on Twitter in a 30-day window. Jump forward only a couple months to April 2018, where we are now, and I am now approaching about 10,000 video views on LinkedIn and averaging around 300,000 Twitter impressions in a rolling 30-day window. I'm a bit shocked at the response online, and I'm very grateful to know just how many people are interested in the idea of achieving social impact with customer experience work. My first 50 days of podcasting and vlogging was quite a trip, and so I'm also taking the opportunity to write about it on Medium. And if you're interested in finding me on Medium, you can look for me just like my personal Twitter handle is at JF Corrigan. On Medium, I am also found under JF Corrigan. That's JFCorrigan. So let's now turn to a preview of the research chapter in my book, Mission is the Journey, which should be out in the summer 2018. If you have questions or would like to make a comment, please send me an email at comment@socialimpactcx.com, and I'll work on getting back to you in a timely manner or letting you know that I'll be addressing the subject in an upcoming podcast. You can also find us on Twitter and then tweet a question to @SocialImpactCX. And if you're listening on YouTube, please feel free to post a question in the comments after this podcast, and I'll work on getting you an answer either in a future podcast or with a direct reply. And I'll also give all that contact info again here before the end of today's podcast session. So let me turn now to a preview of the chapter in my book, Mission is the Journey, that's focused on research. The title of the chapter, the working draft title of the chapter, is Commit to Customer Research. The foundation of good customer experience is good customer research. Internal sources, like input from colleagues, are valuable, but nothing can replace direct input from the people you are trying to serve. An honest effort at qualitative research will enable most organizations to get their customer experience work underway. To begin, an organization must determine what really counts for them, what's important to the people that you're serving. That audience means your clients, founders, board members, employees, leaders, other stakeholders, end beneficiaries, whoever it is. The metrics commonly used and available in the market are important to understand, but personal measurements that you'll be held accountable to at the end of whatever period of time, whether that's an annual review or the end of a campaign or whatever that is, those personal measurements are even more vital. Talking directly to the customer is absolutely crucial to customer experience work. You simply can't do customer experience work without it. If you are trying to achieve impact with your end audience, you'll want to implement the most effective approaches to CX research. That's just common sense. No matter your role in an organization, whether you're a project lead, an executive, a customer experience manager, a general team member working on an initiative, you need to understand the difference between outside-in feedback and inside-out. Once again, taking us to the current Social Impact CX tips that are starting with the book Outside In. Say you set up a team meeting to review and assess all the customer touch points, the places where you interact with your client or customer or beneficiary, and how they directly experience what you are doing for them. Reviewing all these points is a great thing to do, but recognize that this is inside-out information coming from inside the organization about the users on the outside, as your team internally reviews all those touch points. Similarly, sitting with colleagues and collaborators and discussing what you've observed in market, what you've seen and heard from the customer or the client or the member or whomever, what you've seen and heard and how you think their engagement and experiences went, that's also great input, but once again, it's not outside in. It's inside out. Your observations brought back in-house and you recounting those observations can be very valuable, but you have to recognize that is inside out information if you want to get to outside in information in order to better help people. You're not there quite yet. If your goal is to be more effective with customers, you need to gain empathy and understanding for them. While collecting information can help you do that to a certain degree, you never get to full understanding of what the customer is experiencing, which is essential to developing empathy, until you directly talk to them. You need to bring their outside experiences inside the organization from their perspective. A lot of organizations get tripped up on this, and this applies to every organization that is striving to put itself on the correct path to best serve the customer or client or whomever, regardless of whether they are for-profit businesses trying to increase margins or a nonprofit organization aiming to better achieve its mission. Sitting down within your organization, collecting information on what's happening outside, that can help, but it doesn't get you where you need to be. Plenty of businesses think that they are practicing outside-in customer experience work when they are not. A handful of leaders or salespeople sharing experiences that they've had with customers is good information. It could be great information, but once again, it's inside out. Tracking and analyzing statistics and trending data year over year or whatever period of time it is, that's important too. But once again, it's data that you have within the organization that you're looking at, and so it is, once again, inside out. Talking to customers to understand what they do or do not like, now that's outside in. Outside in research can include surveying end users or whatever other methods you have on getting their thoughts, feelings, preferences, and emotions. It's all about how they perceive your services or whatever it is that you're doing for them in the marketplace. Their answers don't have to align with your opinions on your offerings or fit into what you're trying to achieve with the research even. Listen to the customer tell you what he or she likes and doesn't like. That outside-in finding may validate some of your inside-out data collection. It might also invalidate your inside-out assumptions. And that's really important to know, because either way, your work is not done until you get to outside-in research findings. Any inside-out work an organization does is never truly validated until taken outside the organization to get input directly from whomever it is that you're working to serve. When you really listen to what the customer is experiencing, what it's like in their shoes, only then do you begin to create empathy. True leaders across nearly every industry, every market sector, have embraced customer experience and committed to outside-in practices. Before making decisions about products and services that could mean reshaping resource allocation or budget priorities, they go out and get direct input from the customer. A product team I'm familiar with once went out into the field and sat with key client users trying out a brand new product that was being tested. The new customers were failing miserably with the new product, and the team needed to know why. They came back in to the organization after going out into the field and observing what was going on from the customer's perspective, getting that outside-in input. They came back in and shared their findings with executives, who then authorized making some changes, and the customers then began embracing the new product in a way that they had not done previously. The inside-out research wasn't enough. They had to go outside in order to solve the problem and save the new product. 2 months later, that same product team conducted offsite research for a hypothetical new product, and they mapped out all the touch points they believed the customer experienced, spending a great deal of time on the challenges of the new product. But there was not one iota of direct customer input or contact in their activities. Everything they did in that offsite was inside out until they actually presented these possible challenges to real people and watched customers or target customers use the product or get stuck trying to use their product. And they found that their inside-out theorizing was limited in its usefulness. They couldn't know if they were right unless they went back into the field and talked to real target customers. That's always the way it is with inside-out research. You don't know the full story. Did your customer bail because they were frustrated and tired? Did they stop because they realized they were going to need a credit card and they didn't have one on hand? Or did they log off because, real life happens. People log off because the dog threw up. There's simply no way of knowing for sure about the actions of the customer or the inaction of the client or beneficiary until you go out there and talk to them directly. While there is no substitute for direct feedback from people that you're trying to serve, there are other ways to approach it. First, you must understand the difference between qualitative and quantitative research. Qualitative is smaller in scale, and many times credible findings can be had from talking to just 15 to 20 people. And qualitative research is used very frequently in customer experience work. Quantitative research is a little different in that it is statistically confirmed, and you typically need 300 to 400 responses to get statistical validity. Quantitative research is typically used to validate qualitative research findings. Qualitative research, however, is easier to conduct as there are not such significant numbers of participants required. If you're trying to gain empathy for your user and understand what it means to stand in their shoes, qualitative research will many times do the trick, and that's the reason why it's used so frequently in customer experience work. Now, you don't have to be a market research expert to do this work. If you have a budget to hire a market research firm or professional researchers who work in the field called ethnography, and in the book I'm going to get into ethnography and talk about that, that's great, and I would recommend that highly. But if you lack the funds for an external firm, you can still get extremely valuable perspectives by going out and asking questions of your customers or your clients or your beneficiaries. I would always advise that if you know someone who's done some market research work, it's always good to talk with them or collaborate with them on how you can best write the questions so that you get accurate findings and inputs from those questions. But simply going and asking open, honest questions, trying to get the direct inputs and feedback from whomever it is that you're working to serve is almost always a valuable experience. So that's a whole section of this chapter focused on research. The chapter will go on to have sections focusing on how you perform qualitative research, how you navigate the internal battle for resources to go do the research that you want to do. The difference between conducting research, and then also understanding your audience, which I'll read a little bit more about that here. And then also this subject of ethnography and even remote ethnography, which is a very interesting twist on that. And so let me read a little bit further here on research versus understanding your audience, and then we'll wrap it up here. So customer research is good. Understanding how your target audience is experiencing challenges is even better. If you're trying to serve your customer better to fulfill your mission more effectively or efficiently, your objective is to gain an understanding of empathy for the customer. There is a field of research called ethnography, and if you're not a market research expert, that may sound a bit daunting, but the field of ethnography actually offers a lot to anyone trying to better understand customers. Ethnography, in its broadest definition, comes from the field of anthropology, and it typically involves reaching the customs of a people and culture. That's where we come from in the world of anthropology. But what we get to very quickly is observational research, and that's really what's key to ethnography. Customer experience and market research professionals in most business environments use a much narrower component of ethnography in their work, most typically, and this is true for customer experience related work as well. True ethnography involves observing the customer in the field. It's very worthwhile, but also it's typically requiring a research budget of significant size and some true professional expertise. But once again, there are ways to gain information that would be valuable and useful without a huge budget and without decades of professional research experience. There are simple ways to ask customers about what they're experiencing, granting you insights that would gather that you would gather from true ethnographic research. They may not be in rich detail as true ethnography, but it can certainly help you get underway. This work may also lead to additional findings for your qualitative research activities. I would stress, however, that a lighter approach to this type of research does not replace full ethnography. If you're in a competitive market and others are carrying out full ethnography, then they may very well have better insights than you. But if you're in a nonprofit or social impact environment, some intelligently used qualitative research questions can start you down the road towards better customer understanding, and some good enough approaches to ethnography type questions can certainly also be extremely valuable. And then there's further information that will be in the chapter talking about ethnography in a little more detail, and also the types of questions that begin to get you into this field that would be kind of good enough, similar to ethnographic research, but not full ethnography, but will certainly start getting you some of the information that allows you to better understand how people are thinking, feeling, remembering, recalling the experiences they had with your organization's services or products. And that's where you get the very helpful findings and insights to better understand whomever it is that you're working to serve from their perspective, from the outside in. All right, so that was both information related to the importance of customer research and CX work, and it was also a small preview of my book, Mission is the Journey, which is due out in summer 2018. And as I've said before, Social Impact CX is also intended to become an interactive forum, a place to stir conversation and answer questions, provide some context, definitions, and hopefully achieve a better understanding of CX work. So what questions do you have about customer research or defining and clarifying other terms or elements of this world of customer experience work? You can ask a question at Social Impact CX a couple different ways. First, you can send an email to comment@socialimpactcx.com. That's COMMENTATSOCIALIMPACTCX.com. You can also find us on Twitter and post a question there. Our Twitter handle is @SocialImpactCX. And if you feel so inclined, please use the hashtag SociImpactCX. And please follow us on Twitter to stay up to date with new podcasts and other related content. Or if you're listening to this podcast via YouTube, feel free to post a question in the comments section and we'll do our best to catch you there. While at YouTube, please subscribe to the Social Impact CX channel. And also, there's a new website that is in development and getting very close to providing links to all of our recordings as well as other resources. This is John Corrigan reminding you that, especially in social impact work, it's important to understand that your mission is really all about somebody else's journey. And the more you know about someone's journey, the more you can help. Thanks for listening to Social Impact CX.